Senator Kennedy has been shot. Is that possible? Is that possible? Senator Kennedy, oh my God.
My father was shot 4 times. One of the shots, and all 4 times were from behind.
Hold him! Hold him! We don't want another Oswald! Hold him, Raper! We don't want another Oswald!
What's up, guys? It's your boy, Benny. So who's the most dangerous man in America? Well, it depends on where you're coming from. If you're in the media business, it's Joe Rogan. It's Tucker, then it's Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan's audience is actually bigger than Tucker's. Joe Rogan's the most listened to man on planet Earth, and he can't be controlled. He's totally independent. Joe Rogan can say and do whatever he wants, and is super based. Now, who is the most dangerous man in the world if you're from the deep state? Well, absolutely RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is running for president against Joe Biden. RFK Jr. Clearly has a bit of an axe to grind here, baby. What grinds RFK Jr.'s gears? Well, the fact that the CIA will probably assassinate him during his presidential race. What the hell? So now you have the 2 most dangerous guys getting together for a podcast yesterday, RFK Jr. on Joe Rogan's podcast. RFK Jr. claiming that he is aware that he could be assassinated by the CIA if he doesn't live in fear, as he repeats allegations that the intelligence agency was involved in his uncle's death. His uncle, of course, being President John F. Kennedy Jr. What do you think happens when you get into office? Asked Rogan. I got to be careful. I got to take precautions, says RFK. Have a listen.
What do you think happens when you get into office? Like, if you're talking about your uncle who was assassinated and you believe the intelligence agencies were part of that, what happens to you?
Well, I got to be careful. I mean, I'm aware of that, and I'm not, I'm aware of that danger, and I don't live in fear of it, at all. But I'm not stupid about it, and I take precautions.
I take precautions, man. His father didn't take precautions. He was allegedly killed by a CIA-associated operative. His uncle didn't take precautions. He rode in the back of a limousine, an open-air limousine, and bingo, bango, blammo. Everyone's seen the Zapruder film, right? Kennedy, 69, has repeated the claim that CIA was involved in the assassination of his uncle, John F. Kennedy, in Dallas, Texas. No, it's not a claim. It's not a claim. This is a real deal. This is for real. This actually happened. Yes, the CIA was directly involved. We know this. We'll prove it. He also claimed that the intelligence agency could have been behind his father's assassination in California in 1968. Kennedy announced his campaign for president in April. He's polling at like 25% against Joe Biden. He's doing an incredible job against Joe Biden. But he claimed that he could also be assassinated by the CIA. I take precautions, Kennedy said during the interview. This is his father. I deeply, deeply recommend that you listen to the entire interview. You'll realize that RFK Jr. is a high IQ individual. He has like a 160 IQ. He's a smart person. I've never heard a smarter person on Joe Rogan's podcast. Wild. He also is married to Cheryl Hines, Curb Your Enthusiasm fame. You remember her from Curb Your Enthusiasm? Oh man, this guy's going to take down Joe Biden. Ooh, it's going to be interesting. So what are we looking at here? Headlines like this. RFK Jr. tells Joe Rogan that he has to be careful because the CIA is going to assassinate him. Now, some of the greatest mainlining of this question as to the involvement of the CIA in John F. Kennedy's assassination came from Tucker Carlson. Right before Tucker Carlson was fired. Oh my, what a coinky-dink, as the children say. Tucker Carlson starting to ask CIA operatives, former CIA operatives, hey, how much of the Kennedy assassination were you involved in? Here's the response he got.
To find out. We spoke to someone who had access to these still hidden CIA documents, a person who was deeply familiar with what they contain. We asked this person directly, did the CIA have a hand in the murder of John F. Kennedy, an American president? And here's the reply we received verbatim. Quote, the answer is yes. I believe they were involved. It's a whole different country from what we thought it was. It's all fake. It's hard to imagine a more jarring response than that. Again, this is not a, quote, conspiracy theorist that we spoke to. Not even close. This is someone with direct knowledge of the information that once again is being withheld from the American public. And the answer we received was unequivocal. Yes, the CIA was involved in the assassination of the president.
Well, that seems like it would be the most important question in the world, that Joe Biden, who voted to release the JFK files but now won't release the JFK files, won't declassify them, that anyone in institutional Washington should be asking. This should be a question that is asked. Tucker Carlson breaking this news is something that, of course, everyone should care about. We should all ask that question because of the consequences. What does it mean? Well, it means that people that are totally outside of the constitutional bounds, there shouldn't even be a CIA or an FBI based on the Constitution. These entities shouldn't exist. That those people are actually in charge. And there's an institutional state that's truly in charge of this nation. That's what it means.
People will not be surprised to hear that. They suspected it all along. But no matter how you feel about or what you thought about the Kennedy assassination, pause to consider what this means.
Yes.
It means that within the U.S. government, there are forces wholly beyond democratic control. These forces are more powerful than the elected officials that supposedly oversee them. Yes. These forces can affect election outcomes. They can even hide their complicity in the murder of an American president. In other words, they can do pretty much anything they want. They constitute a government within a government, mocking by their very existence the idea of democracy. As cynical as we have become after 30 years of watching government officials ignore the voters who employ them, we were shocked to learn this. It's not acceptable. Americans have trusted their government less with every passing year since the killing of John F. Kennedy. Maybe this is why. And people have known this for a long time. The people who knew would include every director of the CIA since November of 1963. And that list would include Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, one of the most sinister and dishonest figures in American life. That list would also include, we are sad to say, our friend Mike Pompeo.
Yes. Tucker Carlson going in hard on Mike Pompeo, a bit of a revenge arc here. But we're not covering that in this video. We're covering RFK Jr., his conversation with Joe Rogan, and what RFK Jr. has said publicly about this assassination. RFK called Tucker Carlson's broadcast, small segments of which you just watched, the most courageous broadcast in 60 years. CIA's murder of my uncle was a successful coup d'etat in which democracy has never recovered. And the polling actually shows that. Trust in the American government collapsed. From then on, nobody cared or trusted our government ever again because everyone suspected something happened that day in Dallas. More evidence of something we've already known. Oswald was a CIA asset. Lee Harvey Oswald. New documents shed light on the CIA's connection to Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, well, well. What else do we have here? This is a picture of me with my uncle. Here's the photo that he's talking about. This is RFK Jr. And this is John F. Kennedy. Here's a picture of me with my uncle, whose wisdom affected me profoundly. Today, these words of his are especially relevant. A nation that is afraid to let people judge truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people. And they don't want you to hear from RFK Jr. because he might say something like this. The CIA lied to my uncle and to the brigade. He's talking about the Bay of Pigs here. As a Cuban, I felt betrayed by your uncle. We never got help promised to us. Trained by the CIA, they told us they were coming. The Cubans blame your uncle for this. Effectively saying, this Cuban guy is saying, yo, why didn't you guys liberate Cuba from the dictator Fidel Castro? Broke and destroyed millions of lives. My uncle wanted to resign after those men were ambushed on the beach. The Bay of Pigs, of course, one of the biggest intel agency nightmares and disasters ever. They just sent all these guys to slaughter on the beaches of Cuba. He told his top aide, I want to shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter to the winds. I wonder why they don't want this guy to debate Joe Biden. Could it be because as senator, according to RFK Jr. here, Biden voted for the Assassination Records Act of 1992, requiring that all documents related to the JFK killing be released by 2017, but President Biden is still keeping thousands of pages of heavily redacted, including 44 pages related to the shadowy CIA and its cover program that had contact with Lee Harvey Oswald just months before my uncle was killed. Well, that's interesting. Why would that be? In 2017, who was president in 2017? Oh, that would be Donald Trump. And why didn't Donald Trump release these documents? According to a press release at the time, and we just got to take the guy at his word, his hands were tied. Who ties Donald Trump's hands? well, it would be the real people in power, I suppose. The real people in power. Shockingly enough. Ladies and gentlemen, RFK, this isn't the first time on a podcast that he's talked about the CIA assassinations, but RFK spoke to Mike Tyson on a podcast about the CIA and their hand in killing his father, not JFK, but his father, Robert Kennedy Sr.
And then, the investigation was a botched investigation. It appears to have been deliberately botched by the LAPD. It was run by people within the LAPD, all of whom there was a special unit created called Special Unit Senator to investigate my father's death. Almost all the members of that unit were ex-CIA agents who had trained in the CIA farm in Virginia and shipped down to Latin America to do dirty tricks work there and then brought back for this investigation. And they destroyed, before Sirhan's trial, they destroyed 1,200 pieces of evidence, including all the bullets. And about 1,200 photographs as well that were taken in the room that night.